What is up, everybody? This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast, looking like a burnt lobster from my time in Cabo, but I'm super excited to be talking to you tonight. Thank you for joining me. Geno Smith talked today, and going back to when I did a podcast the morning before they announced his signing, when I was tipped off that it was coming probably later that day, and it did. I've been accumulating massive amounts of information on Geno Smith and been waiting for this press conference to happen so we can really dig in on him. I've done a ton of research, talked to a bunch of people, and I want to give you 5 observations about Geno Smith. Now, to do this, we have to establish a base of communication. And let me explain what I mean by that, please. And that's simple, that if you are like me, and 90% of people in the NFL are, and you believe the quarterback is the very most important position, then that's why you see a team like the Washington Commanders that with essentially the same team, but they go get Jaden Daniels and they look like world beaters. Why? Because they got a quarterback. Many of you have heard me tell this analysis, but I'll say it again. A terrific NFL general manager once told me that there are 8 teams that think they have a quarterback, excuse me, that 100% believe they have a quarterback that can win them a Super Bowl. There are 8 that think they do, and 16 others that want to be one of the 8, either group of the 8. They want to at least either hope they have it or know they have it. And this is a quarterback driven league. You either have one or you don't. And so that's why when you're waiting to find out, where guys are, or you're waiting to find out about a guy's development like Aiden, in my opinion, you keep picking quarterbacks till you find it's too important of a position. So I do not believe that Geno Smith is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And when I say that, I mean one of the elites. The elites are getting paid north of $50 million. The very good quarterbacks, and I think Geno is a top 15 quarterback in this league. The very good quarterbacks are getting in the mid, meaning 45 and over, to high 40s, and it goes down from there. The Raiders commit $66 million to him over 2 additional years, and up to 80, mid 80s. So he can get the contract to a low 40s if he performs at the level that he thinks he can, and if the level the Raiders hope he can. Either way, if not, they get him in the 30s. A steal. This is a great deal by Spytech, a great deal by Pete Carroll. And I'm going to tell you, I think it was a very good deal for Geno because he's betting on himself. You've heard me talk numerous times, but Kirk Cousins has always bet on himself. And whether you think he's a great quarterback or a terrible quarterback, he has made a bundle of money in this league because he always bets on himself. So here are 5 observations I want to talk about with Geno Smith with you tonight. He made a statement tonight in the today in his press conference where he says he wants to be the first in the building and last out. Now, I had someone tell me this, and I want you to hear me. Sometimes y'all only hear a sentence and then you run off to make a statement. There is no doubt, including in Geno's mind, that this is Max Crosby's team. Everybody knows every day Max is first in, last out. That's just who Max is. It's his work ethic. He's an elite player. Not on the Raiders. He is an elite player in this league. So Geno made a statement today. He wants to be first in, first out. That was not a cut at Max. That was a, hey, I understand the importance of my position, and I'm going to have to match Max. That was a very big deal. That was a massive deal. A massive deal. He was basically laying the gauntlet not to Max. He was laying the gauntlet to the team. I'm going to be your guy on offense. I know I'm the quarterback. I know that I'm the most important position in this team, and I'm going to set the standard. That was a big deal. And I was texting with one of the players after the presser, and that was the first thing he mentioned to me was he goes, that was impressive because everybody knows that's Max. And if he's going to match or even come close to Max's effort, we're going to be in a good spot. That was not a statement to the fans. That was a statement to his team. Now, I'm going to tell you why that's so important. I know a lot of players, a lot of players who talk to the fans. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the ones that listen the closest are in your locker room. And Gene, that statement to the fans is going to be cool. That statement to the locker room is, I just made you a promise. And to me, Geno is a lot of things. He is smart. That young man is a very, very smart man. I'm going to get into that more in a minute. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was telling his future teammates, I'm here to lead, and I'm setting the standard for myself. Some people, a Devontae Adams, tries to set a standard by telling people what he is. But when he isn't that, you can lose respect. Guys know that. And Geno Smith is a very intelligent man. He knew exactly what he did. And that was a big statement to his team. And again, I texted with a couple players afterward. The first one I texted with is the one that brought it up. And I talked about it with the players I texted with, and they were all extremely impressed by that. Next, he is very humble, but extremely confident. And there is a difference. I once heard it explained like this, and I think this is a really good observation that humility is an understanding of my inefficiencies and inabilities. But humility with confidence is total confidence in God's abilities that He's given me. Now, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying out there God's picking winners in football games. And I'm the one that says if you're going to thank God after a win, then thank Him after a loss. Just be consistent. But that being said, it's you can be humble and be confident. Humility is, hey, I know I'm only one guy on this team, but I'm going to give my best, and I'm confident because of my teammates and because of the natural ability that God's given me that we're going to win. And because I have ability, but I have the people around me to make the most of my ability. That's not a lack of humility. I remember one time John Robinson, many of you, because we're West Coast now, but many of you remember the great John Robinson. And he was at a Detroit Lions practice. I think Rod Marinelli was the coach at the time. It may have been Steve Mariucci, but I think it was Rod Marinelli. Excuse me. And John Robinson was there. And he was holding court. And if you've ever had an opportunity to talk to John Robinson, what a thrill. What a terrific man. Great coach. And he talked about somehow somebody got into the conversation about players making guarantees. And he said, do you know why I didn't mind Joe Namath making a guarantee? And everyone goes, why? And he goes, because he won. He goes, I love it when players make guarantees. I just make sure that they understand you better win or whatever you guarantee. Because if you're not, you're arrogant. But if you are, you're confident. And he goes, arrogant people look stupid. Confident people look smart. And one of the things that everyone talks about with Geno is there's a great humility. I'm going to get into this more in a minute, but you saw him today, deferring to Pete Carroll and what Pete has done for him. I was once told that there was a person in the Seattle organization, a janitor or someone like this, and I was told this by one of his teammates, that did something for Geno and didn't even tell Geno that he did it. And that when Geno found out, he was so overwhelmed and was extremely generous with this person who it may have even been a cafeteria worker the more I think about it, but it was a position that many people would think were not a high level position. They never told Geno they did it. They weren't looking for anything. And he just went to them and was extremely generous and kind to them because he's humble. He doesn't think because I'm the quarterback of the organization, I'm better than you. He walks in and says, I'm the quarterback of the organization. I need to earn your trust so I can lead you, even the cafeteria janitorial staff. And I was told by several people that one of the things, matter of fact, at the owners' meetings, I had an NFL executive say to me, "You are going to love Geno Smith." And I said, "Tell me why." He said, "He is one of the most humble people, and he's very confident, and you're going to love dealing with him because he is not sold on himself." And I thought that was really fascinating. Let's talk about uh, uh, another example, and it he has knowledge of the game with the preparation. I have learned in talking to several people, and including one of his teammates in Seattle last year. I talked to him quite a while about Geno. He talked about he's so knowledgeable, but he puts in the preparation. And this person said to me, Hondo, I've never seen anybody I've ever played with prepare like Geno. I thought that was really interesting. Tom Brady was that way. And I'm sure that is something that Pete Carroll sold Tom Brady at when they failed with Matt Stafford. And Pete and some others met with Brady to convince Brady that Geno would be the guy. I think that was probably an area that they sold him on, was that Geno spends massive amounts of time preparing. He's a preparer. He's very detailed. He does not waste time. I was told by this player that he would oftentimes be yelling out to linemen and other guys, which you understand, but that when other guys were getting reps, he would go up to young defenders and say, "Hey, you know what? When I'm looking for this, this is what I'm looking at. Watch the quarterback here." That he was so prepared, not just on his side of the ball and his duty, but everyone's side of the ball, and then preparing the other players. In fact, this player said to me, he'll be a captain this year. He goes, just through OTAs and minicamp, you watch. So we're going to watch that close. I'm after what I'm heard about the man, I'm 100% convinced he will be. But he said he's going to get the captainship not because he's a quarterback. He's going to get captainship because he's prepared and he's going to help everybody. I thought that was a very interesting observation. Next is that he has great delivery, and he also has great delivery of the football, but he has great patience. Now, there's no way to skin this apple and not talk about the fact he has had some really bad interceptions. But in talking to one team that played him a lot when he was with Seattle, This executive at the NFL owners meeting literally said to me, he said, I think you need to give the guy a little bit of grace and go look at where a lot of those interceptions were, fourth quarter, trying to somehow save the ball game. I thought that was fascinating, but he has great delivery and and he in the way he moves with the ball in his hands. He can get the ball. So let me go back and I addressed this the other day, but I want to address it again. It was frustrating, and I'm not even a fan to watch Trey Tucker over his entire career here in Las Vegas have to wait for the football. And then all of a sudden he gets separation from two guys and he has to wait. And there's two guys there, and people are like, why is the quarterback throwing into that? Well, if you, by the way, read that book by Pat Kerwin, Take Your Eye Off the Ball. It's a great book. We'll get the video, watch it. In fact, I was talking to Pat at the NFL owners meeting, told him I'd recommend his book to all of you. But make sure if you go back and watch, I mean, Trey's having to stop. That's not going to happen with Geno. That is not going to happen with Geno. Geno Smith is able to hit him with the ball in stride. In fact, if I was Pete Carroll, first drive, first game, I'm calling a 9 or a 7 route. Remember, some teams call them a 9, which is just a straight to the end zone. Some calling a 7 because it goes for a touchdown. Same route, just the way teams name them. I call it a 7, but I'm going to call a 7 route, and I'm going to tell Trey Tucker, go to the end zone, and Geno's going to throw it. You better be able to catch it. That's me. Because I think it automatically, last year, teams weren't as worried about Trey stretching the field because he was going to have to wait for the football, and you have time to get a safety there. And with Geno's ability to deliver and move, teams are going to have to play plaster coverage. Now, if you don't know what plaster is, when a quarterback begins to move and it looks like the play has broken down, plaster coverage is you get on your guy and stay with him because the quarterback's moving and everybody's moving. And now it's like a hodgepodge of backyard football. Remember when you were a kid playing backyard football with your buddies and there was one guy who was quarterback and everybody else just went out? And before you could rush the pasture, one Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi, whatever. Anyways, you're going to see a lot of what looks like backyard football because Geno's able to move and his delivery is so good. You're going to see a lot of creativity, and that should be exciting to you as Raider fans. And then the last thing that I have heard, and I heard this from an executive with the Seahawks, I've heard it from a player with the Seahawks, and two other people who've been with Geno, is he is not a blamer, he's a blame taker. Now, I'm going to explain this to you. You'll see quarterbacks who will get up and say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have thrown that football. The guy, ran the wrong route, which is, yeah, I shouldn't have thrown it, but it's this guy's fault. I'm not going to get into any names. Every quarterback I have covered here has not been a blamer. There was one in particular, I won't get into all that, who would find a way of taking the blame, but throwing somebody under the bus. And I can't tell you how much quarterbacks are the highest paid on the team. They get the most attention. Players understand that. So when you're that guy, don't be a blamer, be a blame taker. And that's Geno. Again, I'm going to tell you a funny story. So a player that played on with him in Seattle told me this story, and you'll get a kick out of it. He said there was a play where Geno is like, "Man, I threw a bad ball," and takes all the blame for this interception, and gets in the locker room on a Monday, and they play that clip from his post-game press conference. And everybody was really moved because it was a route where the wide receiver had to be at a position. It's called a spot throw. And Geno throws it to the spot, and the guy ran the wrong route. And it was a young player, and Geno took the blame. And everybody in the media was blasting Geno. Fans were blasting Geno. And it was a big deal. It was a really big deal. And this player said to me, everybody in that locker room is going to love him. And I said, give me an example. He said, your offense scores 52 points and loses. And he's not going to go in there and say, we scored 52 points. Tell Patrick Graham and the defense to do something. He's going to be like, this was totally my fault. And, you can do it in a way too where it's fake. And he just goes, he has the ability of convincing you it really was him. And that is a trait that is going to take him a long ways. First in, first out. A blame taker, not a blamer. His ability to deliver and move with the football. All of these are 5 observations about Geno. Now, I know when I say stuff, people go and aggregate it and write it and say whatever they want. I can't do anything about it. But for those of you that actually have a brain and are listening, which is 99% of you, I'm not saying Geno Smith is a top 5 quarterback in this league because I don't believe he is. But you don't have to have a top 5 quarterback to win in this league. He is a top 15, and he's super smart. He can deliver the football to the players that you got. He's a leader. He's going to be there. He's going to be a blame taker, not a blamer. He's going to lead from the front. You want to know who the biggest fan of Geno Smith is going to be? Max Crosby. Everyone doesn't understand Max. He's not an ego-driven person. He just wants to win. And here's a guy that shares that mentality and has laid down the gauntlet that he's going to match the work ethic. And if that's so, Katie bar the door. This was a great pickup by Spytech and Pete Carroll.